Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Race Chat. Something always happens to make me laugh or giggle right before we start. It's a great way to go about it. But, I went to adjust my camera right at the end. And I'm like, what am I doing? It's sketchy as it is. And thankfully, we made it. How you doing today, Adam?
I'm doing all right, man. I'm doing all right. It was awesome to be at the Motorama show on the weekend, see a ton of people. Still battling some mental health challenges, but you know what, Clint? It's the time of year. I think the longer days, the daylight, it's all going to help.
Yeah, I got to go to the Speedway today and check out some of the stuff we'll be talking about later on in the program and showing you some videos that relate to that. And it felt good to be out. The weather was nice. After Motorama, day's rest, got out to the Speedway. The sun was shining today. We're getting close. We have a great show for you. Show 214 this week. Trayon LaRue is going to join us to talk about his first race with the ZMAX Cars Tour. Dan Bailey's going to come on, talk safety, talk about the business of racing. If you're someone who's coming to a guy like Dan, Epic Race, we're asking for sponsorship. He's going to tell us the formula that he needs back to make the business end work for him. So we'll discuss that a little bit. Dan Price, of course, Cowboy Dan's always got a great story and a big smile and just one of the biggest hearts here in Ontario. He ended up jumping in with some TV stars, Farm Truck and Asian, after Weehall had left Motorama Sunday night. And it's just cool how Cowboy was on the scene. He'll tell us a story about how he helped them try and get a car going that they were trying to buy and how that all worked out. So that's interesting. And finally, our last guest of the night is Matt Williamson, who's going to come on to set up the Port Royal Big Race for the Short Track Super Series going on in Pennsylvania this weekend. And, of course, Matt, as we know, was tied up in all the tire debacle last year at Maryville. And we see that Bobby Pierce and two other drivers were stung by the World Racing Group today, the World of Outlaw Late Models. And Matt's going to come on just to talk about, tire testing. There's a lot of debate. Is it good? Is it bad? How can we conduct it better? What are we missing? Maybe give a guy like me some tips on the do's and don'ts of tire testing. Now, I know what you're saying. From a guy who got caught messing with tires, why are you going to listen to him? But I think from their side of the story, there was a lot of appeal stuff going on that I think we will all agree, no matter what side of the argument on, could be done better going forward for all tire tests. So let's talk about that. And that's what we got. Of course, Buxton updates, Schweeken updates. I don't know. We got tons of stuff.
You know what that reminds me of?
What?
You're not going to like this, but it's okay. And I even said about an hour ago, I said to myself, look, don't piss Clint off tonight. Let's just have a good show. But you explained that. Who's put more thought in? It reminds me of the scene in Kingpin where Roy Munson's having a smoke and he offers one to Ishmael. And Ishmael talks about smoking being bad for you. So Roy Munson says, who's done more research than the good people at the American Tobacco Association? It's all right. Lights went up.
But
you're right.
We'll see how that one goes. I don't think I can ever put out an angle without you pissing it out the wind before we even get started. Can you just play along and pull on the rope? Maybe you're the reason. You're the racer that has me so miserable. I thought it was everybody hanging out in the backyard, but you're the dick that gets me pissed off every day.
No, not every day. Not every day. I agree with you. I think Matt Williamson's the perfect person for us to talk to about this. But your explanation of him just reminded me of Roy Munson.
Well, I can preach to everybody on the other side of course he got caught argument, saying, well, why are you going to talk to him? But, Matt was embroiled in the same kind of thing that I think Bobby Pierce finds been. We'll look at Bobby Pierce's stats, talk about the situation, at least from the outside. We're going to bench race a little bit. We don't know shit. We're just throwing stuff at the wall. So,
from an entertainment standpoint, it's the most intriguing angle. No doubt about it. Like talking to Matt gives us an interesting take on where we can do that. So no, I've got your back. I knew you wouldn't like that analogy, but it popped into my mind, and I have to share it when these things pop into my mind, or my head will explode.
Let's jump into our first guest right away. Trayon LaRue, fresh off his first start in the Car ZMAX Tour down in the States. Trayon will jump on, talk to us about how his thing went for the first go. You got some testing in, Trayon. First off, tell us where you started for the fans that aren't up to speed. Where'd you start? Where'd you finish? And are you happy with that? And then we'll let Adam take it away.
Yeah, we qualified fifth, which we're pretty happy with. I think there was 34 cars there, so We were pretty happy with our speed in qualifying, and in the race, it was kind of like the Southern National Motorsports Park there. It's really abrasive on tires, so we were kind of just riding around in a straight line for a very good portion of that race, like doing more saving than I ever have in racing anything else ever. But and so I think we didn't have we was only competition cautions till about lap 90. Lap 90 restarted, got into an incident. We ended up ninth after that. Fought back from 25th in the final 30 laps. But yeah, it's always a good way to start the year with a top 10. I think we had more in the car and maybe deserved a better finish. But yeah, just kind of caught up in an incident that wasn't really avoidable from my standpoint there. And like I said, come on with the top 10. It's a good way to start things off and head into the next one.
Trayton, right around the time you had your accident on a restart, could you tell things were ramping up? Like every restart was fairly polite, but as the race kept going on, you could see that it was getting a little bit more cutthroat, a little bit more cutthroat. Was your incident the case of someone trying to clear themselves who just wasn't clear going down into turn one?
Yeah, that's what happened. So there was one restart got called off, and then the next one, the leader missed a shift. It kind of, I don't know if the leader missed a shift. I think he said he spun the tires or whatnot, but it got the whole inside line stacked up, and then yeah, I was on the inside. I think about third or fourth row back, and a car on the outside was kind of made a late dive to the bottom going into turn one, and I just happened to be right there at the guy's wheel, and no time to react, and jumped over his left rear tires. So yeah, it's kind of like I said, there was a lot of saving going on. We were probably going 60% for a lot of the race, and you get that lap 90 caution, and then all of a sudden there's 35 laps to go, and it's time to go. So it's really what it came down to, and yeah, guys getting aggressive and getting pushy late in the going.
Trayton, I watched a good portion of that race when I got home from Motorama. That's the beauty of being able to back up and watch it. Man, it looked aggressive from the whole get-go. Like they were eating you up your bumper a lot there. Talk about, is that a lot more aggressive than you're used to around here? It looked like the gloves were off right from the green.
Yeah, it was a tough deal because I was kind of like at the start of the race, I was stuck right behind Caden Honeycutt, and there wasn't really a lot of urgency for 15 laps or so. And then I had Quapple on my rear bumper. He was starting to push me, and then I was starting trying to push and get by Honeycutt just because he didn't want to get hung up on the outside and trained all the way to the back because there was about 10 or 15 cars stuck in a line. So the urgency kind of ramped up pretty quick in that case, but at the same time, you were just trying not to spin the rear tires and not abuse the front tires as well. So no, I wouldn't say that it was overly aggressive. There was you kind of learn pretty quickly who you can race and who you can't race, and I'd like to say that guys race me pretty clean for the most part. Like I know Quapple was a little pushy with me, but at the same time, he did lift a couple times. I was watching the stream back. He lifted a couple times when he probably didn't have to, and it was the same thing with the 81 and the 08 as well. So there was a little bit of respect going on earlier in the race there, and like we were talking about there, just you get the restart with 30 laps to go, and it's time to go.
How much homework have you done on the Cars Tour, Trayton? How much have you gone back to watch to see where the limits are, to see, do you give someone a couple chances before you apply the bumper, or is it all situational? What's the racing like?
Like I've been watching the Cars Tour for a really long time, so it's like all that everything that I've watched is kind of built up, and then what I'm kind of experiencing now and looking into a lot more now is it's all applicable. It's situational for sure, but I think for the most part, everyone they're kind of their reputation precedes them, and you understand how people race and like I said, who you could race and who you can't race. My crew chief, Chad, he's been around the series for a really long time. So, he was in my ear as well, just kind of telling me what to expect from each driver and kind of it helps in trying to understand what their next move may be when trying to race them.
Trey, it's pretty safe to say you grew up in the Canadian market here. Everybody knew you probably before you even knew who these people were because, we were watching you since you were 12. And now you get down there to a place where, you certainly don't know as many people. They know you're I heard them refer to you as the cast car champion at one point. So a lot of them don't really know what's happening up here. They know you got talent. They know you're a champ. But how is it when you're trying to build relationships like that? Like, how long does it take? How, does it just happen organically? You happen to be standing beside somebody in a driver's meeting. How do you go about building those relationships in a place where you don't really know anybody?
I mean, it's like the first day of school at, first day of high school, really. You're trying to, drivers meetings and then and whatnot, you kind of get talking to some guys, but I think a lot of it is relationships that, stem from, mutual relationships. So guys that have, I was talking to guys that had driven for Chad in the past and guys that worked on his team. And then you build from there. And also guys that Caden has worked with as well. He's worked with a few drivers that come from Venturini and they happen to be in the field as well. So, it's, you get talking to people and then you get introduced to other people and you kind of build relationships that way. But at the same time, everyone's kind of skeptical of you because you're the new kid on the block. But, I think it'll only be a matter of time and fit right in.
Talking about that, is there much socializing, Trayon? Because there's a lot of up-and-comers in that series. There's a lot of people who have already made it to higher levels who are dabbling in that series. So it's an interesting dynamic. Do you do much socializing or do you keep it focused on business?
I would say it's pretty similar to like the Pinty series, for example. Like I think there's kind of, some drivers that are variable and will want to talk at the drivers meeting and before intros and whatnot. And then, there's other drivers that are really focused on what's going on and the task at hand. So I think there's kind of that dynamic. There's a difference. There's some drivers on one hand and on the other hand as well. But I wouldn't say that it's unsociable by any means. I think some guys are pretty personable for sure.
Trayon, fan question. Phil asks, have you been doing any sim testing leading up to the season? Are a lot of these tracks on iRacing, and can you do that?
Yeah, so a lot more of these tracks are on iRacing in comparison to the Canada series. So it's nice for sure. It kind of, Southern National was the first one, and that one's on iRacing. So it's kind of cool to see how the difference is between iRacing and real life, and it helps for sure. Kind of get that line down before you get to the track. There's a Friday test day at every track, but it's all really fast paced, and you don't get a whole lot of time as a driver to really learn the track. It's kind of you're focused on the setup and making changes to the car right away. So having that iRacing experience helps for sure. And it's nice that a lot of the tracks I'll be going to are on there as well.
Trayon, Alvers wants to know who owns the race team that you're racing for, All Rem Racing, and who builds the chassis?
Yeah, so Allrum Racing is Allrum is the parent company of Evrim. So it's Julian is the guy at Evrim and Allrum Racing. So really cool to have their support, a Canadian company kind of helping me make my step into the States. And then as for the chassis, I'm not quite sure. It's they're Hedgecock chassis. I'm not too I haven't been too involved in the whole chassis building, the late model stock side quite yet. Just because, I haven't been able to hang out at the shop much with school and whatnot, but I'm sure it's something I'll become more accustomed to in the coming weeks.
Trayon, before we let you go, where are you off to next and when?
Yeah, so we're off to Goodyear All-American Speedway in 2 weeks. It looks like it's going to be a fun track. It's kind of oddly shaped one for sure. It's got like a little dog leg in the front stretch, so it's going to be a new experience, but I'm really excited for it.
Well, we'll wish you luck, Trayon, and I'm sure we'll be talking to you some more. But nice job. Great recovery. As you said, to come back, you were well outside the top 20 to finish 9th. That's a pretty good save of a tough opening day for you.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
Talk to you soon. Good luck, Trey. Trayon LaRue, the defending NASCAR Canada Series champion, and now getting done on the car ZMAX Tour. Our next guest we'll bring in right away without jumping too far down the line. Dan Bailey's going to jump in and talk to us about a few things here now. Dan Bailey, owner and operator of Epic Racewear, longtime partner of Bosch Weekend and us folks here at G-Force. And
I can't
nope,
see.
it
I can't see
looks,
that logo. What's that
it
logo?
looks like a billboard. Like, gotta bust his ass. You got on mute, Dan. We can't hear you.
There we go.
How about
Yeah, I
now?
say it's all
There
about
we
looking
go.
good. You got to look good.
That's right. Looking good, Dan. Hey, before we get too much further, let's talk about seatbelts before we get any further, because that's been a hot topic last week. I believe it was a national retailer. Was I don't know if we can even say it, but one of them put it out there. Throw up the picture of the belt, Spencer. It was the 60. I don't know, it was 60 or 70 bucks for what they said was SFI belts. I'll just jump in first and say from the ODCC side, we are outlawing all cam lock belts, so this will take this right out of the realm. Now, do you have the picture, Spencer? Yeah, there they are. So this came around last week. It's a Power Fist brand racing safety harness, and by cam lock I mean you turn a knob in the middle of your of the latch, and that's what latches it in as opposed to a latch. But this came out, Dan, and this is kind of frightening. $60 for a pair of seatbelts. They're supposedly SFI approved, which our rule books say. What do you know about the situation?
Well, they could be manufactured to the standards of SFI, but they haven't followed the guidelines for sure. I can't say what they're made of, how they've been made, but I can say that they are not tagged with the original manufacturer, and that's the key with SFI. There are a number of regulations that have to be followed, and if somebody isn't willing to take ownership as the manufacturer of it, I'm not sure that you can be sure that they're legit.
No, and that's just it. The SFI tags need to be legit. You take a quick look. You'd have to be pretty foolish to, like Dan says, you can find stuff that's knockoff that's made to exactly the specs of a quality product, but it's got to be submitted for testing. It's got to have the logo of the manufacturer on it and the SFI tag that shows that it's trustworthy. I mean, this is really nothing new in the industry, Clinton, but that's why you want to shop at a reputable place to understand what you're getting.
And it's like anything. If the price is too good to be true, it's probably worth looking into. It was the same with Joey Logano's gloves. I'm sure those were SFI approved gloves that had been modified, and the modification wasn't approved by SFI. It wasn't, it was deemed unsafe for catching, but the modification hadn't been approved. And like Adam said, it's all over the place. I mean, we have uniforms out there, we have seatbelts, window nets, we have everything out there that anybody can go on the internet and buy something. And when you get it, it doesn't match SFI confirmation standards. It, like we say, it could be made 100% safe, but it might not be.
Good point. And I think what threw a lot of people off is it's a national retailer putting it out there. So you're like, hey, are they jumping into the racewear and safety business? No. And realistically, they probably aren't aware what kind of stuff is going on behind the scenes. They just looked at another SKU that they're brought in. Hey, 5-point harness, let's throw it out there. So
sure.
It's up to the racers. And go ahead, Dan.
Sorry, SFI can be sort of compared to CSA. It's a safety standards. We don't know for certain what CSA approvals require. And when we buy a table lamp, it may or may not be legitimately CSA approved. We don't know that.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So the moral of the story is...
Go ahead, Adam.
Shop with reputable people, right? And Dan Bailey with Epic Racewear, you've earned that. Like you've been around, you're established. That's the nice thing. You pay your dues and you get that just due. Dan, talk about how long has Epic Racewear been in business?
This is year number 10.
All right. 10 years, a lot of that was your effort getting that brand name out there because it's a competitive industry. Talk about what you went through to build it.
A lot of challenges, a lot of product development, a lot of disappointments, a lot of satisfied customers. We also went through a lot of learning curves. We made some mistakes. We made some strides. The first while I focused hard on branding and then product development. And when we first started, we started with a circle of friends. Try this product, try that product. And we took their feedback and grew from there. And it's just blossomed into more than a full-time job, that's for sure.
Dan, I got to spend some time with you in Daytona. I was shocked how well it's taken off for you. Let's just talk about how Daytona is for you. You must be pretty proud to be down there with all the teams. You've got, I think, 7 or so, Xfinity cars in the race that day. That was some good business for you down in Daytona. Talk how you've expanded down into the National Series.
Yeah, we actually were with Us Weekend early on, 10 years ago or real close to it. And we had the opportunity to meet a NASCAR driver through Glenn. And we started by working with them and their smaller team at the Chili Bowl. From there, we went to their Xfinity team, and it kind of exploded. They separated, but we kept our relationships and went to a Cup team. And then we went to 3 Cup teams. And then we went to 5. And then we went to truck teams and then Xfinity teams. And now we dabble in around 23, 24 teams. I would say 7, 8 maybe are full-time, but 23 or 24 vehicles, racers.
That's wicked.
And that is amazing because talk about market share, Dan. That's got to put you in the top 5.
Yeah, it is. Not so much for uniforms, driver suits, simply because the drivers often come with their own sponsorship and they have an arrangement there. But crew shirts, certainly. Some crew suits. The pit crews aren't sponsored by Impact or Simpson or K1 or anybody. So those are wide open. And crew shirts, I think, for the most part, are wide open. This year at Daytona alone, we had in the number of 700 crew shirts on the property. It's a good market share for sure.
Spencer, show some of those pictures if you can of the products that Dan's talking about. Dan, let's talk about a couple other things now. Motorama, we have people coming up to your booth constantly, probably asking for sponsorship. We're looking at some of the flags. So, Dan, you do all this tents, flags, all kinds of other products too, right? So, anything you need, you can look up, Dan. That's all right. And Frankie Muniz, that's pretty cool to get for you guys.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about the business end of things. That's where we were going with this. Dan, I've heard you say, tours, teams come up to you and say, hey, we want $5,000 worth of product. And I've heard you say, well, you got to bring me $25,000 worth of business in other ways, maybe. So explain that theory. And that this is a business. It's not just a donation. So you have to scratch my back. I got to scratch yours. Talk about that relationship building.
Yeah, and when you say that 25,000 or 5 to 1, that's ultimate dream world for sure. Sometimes we'll agree to an arrangement on a 1-to-1. Sometimes I'll do it on a break even or even a loss if it's something that I feel has a proper exposure that we're looking to get. But because we are a multifaceted products and marketing company, anybody who's associated with your race team, all the other businesses on there, we ask for a warm introduction to those guys first. And if we can get that warm introduction, then it's up to us to open that door and turn that into business sales. With that, we offer those guys a discount because they're associated with your race team. And then you kind of get it's not a kickback, but it's like being an ambassador for us. It's like me hiring your services. If we agree to an amount, it's like me hiring your services. And a lot of the times, anything that you need cash for, we have the product for, so you can buy it from us. So many will work on a discount. Others, we have trade checks, and we're open to either. But at the end of the day, everybody wins. It's not about me winning. It's not about the driver winning, the team winning. It's about everybody winning.
That makes a ton of sense. Boy, where do we want to go with that? There's so far to go with that because the way you're explaining that isn't the way a lot of racers conduct themselves, Dan. Right. More of them should, and I think about people. In fact, one is a good friend of yours, Junior Farley. He's really been able to open his mind to what your race car can do and what you can ask from a business standpoint. But I think that's what people sometimes forget is it's a business. There has to be business sense to justify a decision.
Next year's Motorama will have a special guest there who will run a seminar based on that. And Junior and I both have attended these seminars at PRI. I did speak with Alex Streiler. He's the man in charge of motorsports marketing. And he had me sit on a panel, and he considered me an industry expert after a couple of chats. And I was intimidated. I was on the panel with the marketing executives of Coca-Cola, DeWalt, Stanley, Fifth Third Bank, TRD. I didn't feel like I should be there, but I did fit in as a business person with this concept.
Adam knows how you feel. He feels like he doesn't belong everywhere we go to, so don't feel bad, Dan. Dan, the other thing I just want to ask you, as a driver getting into the buying season, you've landed your big sponsor at Motorama, you made your big handshake deal, and you're ready now to call Epic. What are the big things drivers and teams are maybe missing, or what's maybe a Cole's Note tip you can give them when they call you to start booking for suits and safety gear and crew uniforms?
Well, I'll be ready. Be organized is one of the largest things. A lot of the times that takes as long as production of the garments, for sure. Unfortunately, Motorama is late as far as timeline goes. We have media day for the United Racing Series on the 20th of April, and we're just outside of the 4-week window, and we have X number of guys, probably 12 or 14 guys at Motorama that they haven't even picked out their suit design yet. They just approached us at Motorama and they're saying, well, we can have that for media day, right? And we're going to try, but I can't be certain. Unfortunately, as well, we work with teams that require multiple suits, multiple uniforms. The NASCAR Canada Series drivers, they want 10 uniforms. So you get 3 or 4 of those customers, and now you've got 40 uniforms in front of one, and it's a challenge, but that's a big thing. Be ready as quick as you can. Have your logos, your artwork, things like that. We'll make it as simple as we can. And the other thing is have a budget in mind. You don't always have to have millions of dollars to look good. Approach me, ask me about marketing. We'll work with most budgets, that's for sure. And don't try to cheap out. There's that buying triangle. You can have best price, best quality, or best product. You're not going to get all 3. You're going to get 2. Your best price, best quality, best timeline. You get 2 out of 3, not all 3. So, yeah, just be ready.
I think what is that line? We talk about that a little bit at work. Good, fast, or cheap.
Right.
You can have any 2 of those 3, but you don't get all 3.
That's right.
Right on, Dan. We appreciate you stopping in to talk about it. We'll be in touch as we get into it. We appreciate all you do for us here on G-Force and our live productions. And have a great day, man.
No problem, guys. Thank you so much. Just before I go, I do have to give a shout out to my nephews, Cole and Ryland. They're with my brother down in Florida and the grandparents. So, hey, guys, they always say they see Uncle Dan on G-Force TV. So now they see me again.
Right on. Thanks.
Man, that's awesome. That might be one of the first shout outs we've had, Clint. Have we ever had a guest? I think that's awesome. No. Sure they do. Listen to you. Listen to how jaded you are. I don't make you that way.
I'm jaded. I am. I've been trying to be happy. I got to say, though, I had a great time hanging with Dan and Daytona. I had a whole new look on his business, and it's great to see how far they've taken off and how well things are going for him. Our next guest, Cowboy, is going to join in. Dan Price, one of the most likable guys in the pit area, and just a guy who jumps in anywhere. Dan, welcome to the show. How you doing, buddy?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Right on.
You get me there?
We do.
Yeah, we got you, man. So talk to us, Dan.
I'm not good with technology, so I was nervous the entire time that this wasn't going to work. This isn't my thing, but I'm glad it's working. You
nailed it. You look great. You sound great. We love it. tell us your story. What happened? What happened during move out at the show?
Well, I was down there. One of my best friends had a 1932 Ford Roadster in the show, so I'd taken that down on Thursday, and I had my trailer back there on Sunday to pick it up. And we had loaded it, and we'd come back into the building. There was another car that was in the same display that we were going to have to get ready to get it out of there. And I was walking by, kind of a bit of a crowd milling around the Buick T-type there, like a turbo Buick, and I heard somebody say, I don't know, somebody tried to find a spark plug socket and a ratchet and a screwdriver. So that, well, okay, that piqued my interest because I figure in a car, what are the chances anybody's got tools except me with a fully stocked trailer? It's always stocked, and the pit cart's in there and all the equipment's in there. So I said, yeah, I can grab you that stuff. It turns out it was a farm truck in Asia. They had from Street Outlaws. I full disclosure, I don't watch the show, but I am aware of who they are. And but it wasn't to do it because it was them. It was just I heard somebody that needed some tools. So well, I can do that. So went and grabbed some tools. The next thing you know, we were back and forth too many times that it drove my truck and trailer right inside. And we spent the next 4 or 5 hours chasing down a misfire. There was a couple of cylinders on that car. Couldn't get it running. At one point, we thought we had it. Farm truck, which they wouldn't tell me their name. They go by farm truck in Asia. They don't come out of character. That's their deal. But he says, hey, just go for a drive. You're driving. Let's go there. So I took him for a spin. We were trying to get the thing running, and it just wasn't right. We fought it. We fought it for a couple hours. There's a few other people around that had helped, staff from the show. And actually, at one point, a young lady showed up, and she was kind of milling around, and she kind of walks over quietly, picks up a spark plug, and has a look at it, and sets it back down in the car. And the next thing, she's helping us, and somebody had mentioned something about her show, and I thought nothing of it. I'm just working away. We're working away, and after we were all kind of done, we decided it was over. We couldn't get the car fixed, and like, you know what? Somebody said you're on TV. It turns out it was Constance who was there signing autographs. She'd been there all weekend. I guess it turns out I was the last person in the car hobby or the last car guy or girl even knew who she was. So that was kind of interesting. But yeah, in the end, we didn't end up getting it fixed. They got a hold of the seller. He came back, gave them their money back, and they had flown home. So we gave it a valiant effort. Yeah, it was pretty interesting chance meeting, and yeah, it was kind of fun. Got to meet some. Everybody's pretty down to earth for being TV guys, and they're really good guys and girls.
I think the best part about it was, that you didn't even know who they were. That's the coolest part of the story. The 3 biggest stars that Motorama paid tens of thousands upon thousands of dollars with their sponsors to come up, and Dan's like, I don't know, who are you guys?
Well, I know Farm Truck and Asian were. I'm aware of them. They've been around long enough that you're in the peripheral. But I didn't pay them a whole lot of attention. I didn't realize who it was and looking for tools. I just heard it and turned around and, you need tools. Well, I get your tools. Oh, it's you guys. But the deal with Constance. Apparently I've been taking some roughing up from that. Everybody knows who she is. Apparently, except me. She thought it was pretty interesting too. She thought it was kind of neat.
Well, exactly.
She is a real deal. I don't know if anybody watches her. If anybody watches, she is a real deal. Her hands were dirtier than mine at one point.
No, that's wicked.
That's fantastic.
Dan, let's switch gears up. Hey, was Daryl Pelche part of that group? Were you down there with Daryl?
Down at the show? No, Daryl wasn't down there.
Okay. I saw him commenting on the deal. Wasn't sure. Okay, so let's talk about.
I'm a pretty good friends with Daryl. Actually, I take responsibility for Daryl having a sprint car. When everybody he was thinking of going on a sprint car race, and everybody said, "Don't do it! Don't do it! Are you crazy?" I said, "No, get a sprint car. You want to go sprint car racing? Get a sprint car." So I take responsibility for Daryl's poor decisions.
The bugs got him pretty hard. Hey, so what are you doing this summer, Dan? We most know you here on this channel as crew chief with Danny Benedict. He's dropped off the APC tour. Where are you going to be spending your summers other than with the dirt car we see behind you that you play with? You've got, I believe that's a big Mercury behind you too, right? Tell us a bit about that. And, what are you going to be doing on Saturdays now?
We'll be at Brighton a fair bit. That's the plan. I can't guarantee I'll be there every night. Stuff's popping up here and there. But the plan is to be there quite on a regular basis and try to mix it up with some of the Economod stuff that I ended up doing last year down in Western New York, Pennsylvania, and sort of Northwestern Ohio. and that area. I'm got my eyes looking on the last week of the UMP Hell Tour when they go to Michigan for 4 days, Michigan and Ohio. That looks, the big guns kind of drop off by that late. And they're far enough away from Illinois that the tracks kind of slow down, and you don't have the really big heavy fields. And now maybe I'll see if I can make some of those Hell Tour shows with a little crate engine. And I see South Buxton's back on the. Maybe we'll end up back there again. That was a lot of fun to see that. That's good to see that they're back opening up this year. Another track in the province that I can get to with a car. And I see we got 2 at Oshweekend, which is fantastic. I had a great time last year. The toughest situation was with the track. I had a great time there. And I see Merrittville's back. I was kind of bummed that I missed it last year. The last year they ran it, and last year didn't have it. So looking forward to getting there to another track in the province I can go to.
Right on.
Dan, have you ever been in a bad mood?
Oh yeah. Next time you should run a 3-minute track, ask Aaron. Ask my wife. She'll tell you I get in a bad mood. It happens. I try my best not to, but it does happen. It does. I don't know. Try not to show it.
Well, there you go. You're an inspiration.
I think I need to grow the big Dan Price beard, and everybody wouldn't see me pissed off at the world all day. It would be awesome. I'd just hide it behind the big happy beard. Hey, Dan, we appreciate you. Gentlemen, super cool guy. We appreciate you stumping on tonight. Great story, and, if anybody could have got it going, we're sure you could have. So thanks for jumping in.
Well, thanks very much for having me. We were kind of bummed out that we failed. You hate failing. I used to walk away with wipe your hands off, but there we go. We did it. We got it. But it was kind of a bummer not to lose. But we tried. Thanks again for having me on.
Right on, Dan.
What a great guy.
I don't know. He's a good dude. He's the guy who's going to pull over. See, all the big scary dudes that pull over in the dark aren't always there to mug you. Sometimes they're there with a trailer full of tools to fix your wagon and get you going. We're just jumping from one guest to the next. We will talk a bit about Buxton and Southern Ontario Motor Speedway. It's still going to be Southern Ontario Motor Speedway for 1 more year, is what I'm told. Yeah.
Oh, I thought they changed it.
I don't know. I got a meeting with them Thursday, so we'll have a lot more news. Let's jump into Matt Williamson. Then we'll go back to Oshweekend. We still have our Burger Barn video of the week coming up, and we'll talk about that. Matt, welcome here. Before we get into all the drama of the day that for once doesn't involve you or anybody associated with your team, which is great. Not to say you're a troublemaker, but we know the troubles you had last summer. Let's put it that way. Okay, so let's talk about, first off, Port Royal coming up. What a badass place. The track looks awesome. How do you feel about your chances going in? Safe to assume you're taking the Barrett number 3. So how's that going to work out for you? How do you feel about that setup? And we've seen you already, Matt. We've seen you take your small block or small blockish car, if you can, to the first swing of Florida, struggled openly and honestly, came back, won it, and then in the other car, and now you're bringing up the third car. So how do you feel about the 3 now that we've seen the 6 and the 88 already run going into Port Royal?
Yeah, I'm excited. Obviously, Port Royal's one of them places that everybody gets excited to go to just because the facility and the racetrack is so nice. It's really it's a pleasure to go there and race. I mean, it's one of them places that's like everybody enjoys it. But yeah, Jeff and Harry always give me good equipment, and we've won this race in the past, so hopefully we can do the same and give Jeff a big check to bring home.
How many cars do you expect to be towing down there, Matt? I saw the proposed entry list. There's a lot of names on that list.
Yeah, I would say probably 60 modifieds, I would think, just because usually they do this race at the end of the year. Usually it's 200 laps. It's only 75, still pays $50,000 a win. So, and everybody's stuff's new. Everybody's, itching at the bit to go racing. And I think Brett might hit it out of the park if he can get some good weather. I think the Short Track Super Series is going to show some steam going into the year with this event.
So, Matt, for our viewers, this was held over from last fall. Is that what we're understanding? They couldn't get in last year, so they said, okay, we'll do it in the spring?
Yeah, exactly. So this is, I think it still has a bearing on last year's points, but I'm not really sure. It's it's a race that usually we do in the fall when it's cold and rainy, and do it in the spring might be something to look at going forward. It's a pretty cool event, like I said earlier, and looking forward to it.
What is the difference? This might be a dumb question, between a spring race and a fall race. Like, do you go in with a fresh outlook, Matt? Are you mad at anybody coming into this race? Do you owe anybody, or are we? Is it a blank slate?
It's a new year. Obviously, you don't have the mentality that you're racing for a points championship. I shouldn't even say that. You don't have the pressure that you're racing for a points championship. Obviously, you're going out and you're wanting to finish in the top 5, finish in the top 3, knock off good finishes, get yourself set up for the fall. But this time of year, there's a little less pressure, but having a 50,000 win race is big pressure. And that's something you want to go in the year. There's not another 50,000 win race until October. So to be able to carry that belt for a majority of the summer would be pretty cool.
Matt, I got to talk to you in Florida about, towing down, driving. I think you drive just about as far as anybody I can think of, nightly back and forth. Like, if anybody needs a private jet, man, it's you. Because legit, you're driving like 10 hours a day some days, and then racing, and then driving a bunch back. I know you got some help and some guys, but I also know you don't like to put the crew guys out towing the big rig yourself. So you find yourself doing some long hours, man. At what point in the season do you get burnt out?
You try to take a day rest. You know what I mean? Like we went to Georgetown obviously on Saturday. No, Sunday. We were supposed to go down there for practice Friday. It got canceled till Sunday, so we didn't end up going until Sunday morning. So I drove to Middletown, New York, stayed at Jeff's house on Saturday, and then drove down to Georgetown, which it's 5.5 hours from my house to Middletown, and then it's about 4.5 hours from Middletown to Georgetown. So we left Jeff's house at 4:45 or 5 in the morning, and I got home in St. Catharines or in Ridgeway at 2:30 in the morning. So it was a long day. I drove all the miles. Brackman and Noah Walker came down with me, and Chad was sleeping in the passenger seat the last little bit of the ride, and there was snow on the road. So fortunately, in the summertime, you don't really have to deal with the snowy roads when you're getting home. You can click off the miles pretty good, but this weekend was a little rough.
What's the point of taking co-pilots if you still have to drive?
I was waiting for Chad to speak up and say, I'll take the wheel here, but I think he was burnt out. Them guys worked hard at the racetrack, so I couldn't put them in the driver's seat and make them work a little harder,
Let's switch up gears. Talk about late model stuff. Bobby Pierce and 2 other drivers got dinged by the World Racing Group, and I believe it was Blue Ridge Labs was the lab they used. Show the article, Spencer, if you can. We'll talk a bit about it, Matt. So the World of Outlaws have issued a suspension to fine late model driver Bobby Pierce for failing a tire test after competing in the World of Outlaw Case Construction Equipment late model event at Volusia. A tire sample was taken after completion of the feature and sent to an independent lab for testing and chemically altering the tires. So that's the one. Show his stats if you can, Spencer. So this was the other argument that our buddy Cody put this out today. Just look at the stats: 34 late model series wins, 3 national championships, 3 crowns. $1.2 million in winnings, 36% feature win percentage, 60%. 60 podiums, 48 heat wins, and a 3.6 average starting position when he win. So the argument is he's been through all that testing, and this year in February he decided, let's doctor the tires and go for it. Kind of the same thing that can be said about you, Matt, at Maryville. You had all the stats, and you're crushing it, and then all of a sudden they catch you with a tire. So, maybe tell us what you think Pierce is going through. What's the problem here? If it's not a true positive, what's going wrong?
Yeah, it's sickening, really. That's the only way I can put it. I feel for all those guys. I mean, Devin Moran. I reached out to Devin today, talked a little bit, tried to kind of guide him through what I did to try and prove that I was innocent. And at the end of the day, the people that don't believe you aren't going to believe you anyways. But you can prove it to the people that do believe in the lab testing and kind of see the shady past with Blue Ridge. But Pierce, Moran, and Bronson all got it, and I think all three of them have pretty good reputations in late model racing. They all have pretty good rides and pretty good sponsors to withhold the reputation for, and to just throw all that out the window. I mean, it's looking at it from the outside in is it makes me sick to my stomach, but it's also like, wow, it can happen to other people. There's still people to this day that don't believe that I was legal or whatever, and it's just we all invest a lot of money in this sport. We invest a lot of time in this sport, and to throw all that out the window under one lab's results is disgusting, like I said. So people, I talked today to different people on Facebook, whether it be messenger or comments, and people ask if there was other labs, why did World Racing Group keep standing up for Blue Ridge Labs? I watched Brian Carter's spiel on Dirt Vision 15 minutes before the show, and these people got to understand that this has been going on for years. It didn't start with me. It's not going to end with the three late model guys today. I'm sure they have caught some people that legitimately deserve to go down, and they were legitimately cheating. But World Racing Group has invested a lot of their business into Blue Ridge Labs. They've invested a lot of their reputation into Blue Ridge Labs. They can't come out and say now, maybe they were doing things wrong, and maybe we did screw this up. And if they send the stuff to another lab, and they send the tires to another lab, and the other lab says, yeah, Blue Ridge screwed them tests up, how does that look for World Racing Group? Brian Carter has to make it look like he has his full trust that those tires were illegal. And like Cody put on Facebook, I mean, them guys ain't cheating. If there's nobody with a reputation like they have in motorsports that are cheating blatantly like that with tires or traction control or anything like that. So it's disgusting. I think that it's going to be the end of motorsports. There's people like myself and obviously the three late model guys that do it for a living that have to race. I mean, I didn't have an option to back out of racing and go build staircases or windows or roofs or whatever last winter or last summer. I had to go racing. I had to fight through it and get back to racing to make my paycheck. So, but if this happened to somebody that didn't have to do that, we have good people in racing that have a lot of successful businesses or other jobs. And if this happened to somebody like that, I could see them just walking away from the sport. I mean, if I was labeled a cheater and I knew I didn't do anything wrong, it would be pretty hard to stay and invest money into a sport like that.
Matt, expand a bit on that. How mentally taxing was that situation that you went through? You had a ton of support, but still, how much sleep did you lose over that deal?
I want to say that it was the worst thing that I ever went through in my life. I mean, I'm pretty fortunate. I live a good life. I haven't lost too many people that were very close to me. So I can say that, with pretty big confidence that it was the worst thing that I ever went through in my life. There's days where, you don't think about it, but the days that you do think about it, even still are more often than not. People can say whatever they want. They can say that you're being a baby about it, and why try and prove you're innocent, but until they go through it, they don't really know. So when I talked to Devin today, it was I had texted him. I got his number through a mutual friend, and we had talked in Florida a little bit, just coincidence that we were both out on the racetrack kind of checking it out at the same time, and he knew who I was, which was pretty cool to me. I'm like, this guy knows who I am. So I figured I'd reach out to him and say, if you need anything, give me a call or whatever. And he called me 2 minutes later. He's like, yeah, I need something. I need all the help I get. I don't know what's going on. So I related to that because when Doug Leonard called me from the Speedway there, the emotions that go through your head are pretty tough. So I'm thinking about all them guys. I mean, I hope that they didn't do it. I don't think they did it. And to be labeled like that with the reputation that they have, Bobby Pierce is the greatest dirt late model driver right now, and won a lot of races, and Devin's won a lot of races, and Bronson's won a lot of races, and now everybody questions everything that they ever did. Stuff to just persevere and go through with it.
Okay, if I can steal Matt for a couple of minutes here, Adam, or a couple of questions in a row, because as a promoter, I want to quiz you, Matt. So rapid fire. Do we need to test tires at all, or should we just let it go wild?
Absolutely. Testing tires is crucial to making racing a level playing field. I think that we grind our tires, we sipe our tires, we groove our tires, we traction grabber our tires. We do too many things to our tires right now that are illegal in the rule book, and to add any chemical analysis to that would be way too tough. Somebody could get a huge advantage using something like that, and I think that it's pretty critical to be testing tires.
Okay, how do they avoid this in the future? Is this a multiple testing thing where we're sending out to multiple labs? Do we just backdoor the one that we feel has had too many false positives? How do you get around that?
So obviously Blue Ridge is used by a lot of sanctioning bodies and racetracks because they are the cheapest, which is understandable. Racing is expensive from a promoter side, from a racetrack side, from a racer side. Nobody wants to spend $500 on a tire test, but there needs to be a second lab involved in tire testing, because you cannot put someone's reputation and livelihood on the line for a $125 tire test. It just is not feasible. You need to send the tire test. If the first tire test comes back illegal, you need to send it to a secondary lab. And if you don't want to send it to a secondary lab, you need to go with something like a lie detector test, or something that will show you, get the people to buy their tires at the racetrack and race the next week. And if they run 10 places worse than they did the week before without getting in a wreck or something, then maybe you know that they're cheating. But there has to be a second option other than Blue Ridge Labs to make it so that you really know that they were cheating.
Just confirm there, I'm not done with them yet. Just confirm there that a lie detector test was used in this situation when the team had said you're false. So for our fans, a lie detector test? What is this, Geraldo? But it actually happened. Okay, so let's talk about Matt. I'm a promoter now. I got to test tires going into this season. What are the do's and don'ts that I need to do other than using not the cheapest lab, that's number one I took because you said it. What other things can let me set this up. In your opinion, as someone who feels you were wrongly accused and had a false positive, how can I as a promoter guide my tech crew to make sure we are not creating false positive, damaging anybody's reputation other than the lab we choose? What can we do on the site, on the scene?
Yeah, so there's a few things that I learned when I went through it all. I mean, up until I went through it, I didn't really think twice about it. You don't really care about it. It's one of them things that they take the sample and put it in the bag and send it away, and you don't even care whether the results come back. But the few things that I learned was that you have to use glass vials, and I think that there should be pieces of tape put over the cap of the glass vial to make it so that you can't open it inside of the bag and tamper with the sample. So that's one thing. The glass vials is so that they don't cross-contaminate between samples. And the glass vials, you can get medical grade glass vials. You can get like 50 of them on Amazon for like $30. So it's not like they're expensive. I think you should take more samples than less. I know when they took our original samples, they only took 2. In my opinion, you're taking a groove out of the tire. You're not damaging the tire. You can use the tire the next week for people that are on a budget and need to use tires weeks to week. And a lot of times if I'm running a tire and they take a tire sample, I'd like to use it the week later. So you're just grooving it. You're not killing that tire. So take more samples than less. My recommendation is 4 or 5. If you take 5 samples and you send 2 to the first lab and both of them come back positive, at least you have 3 that are in a glass vial. They're contained, so the chemicals that are in them can't evaporate over time like everybody says they can. And then you can use a secondary lab. So, you send 2 more samples to a secondary lab and they come back positive. Well, then there's a pretty good chance that person's cheating. And then you keep the 5th one for if they want to protest that and send you to court or whatever. You've got a sample of the tire still that you can bring to court with you.
Last one I got, I'll turn it over to you. Matt, should we be doing in the dirt world what NASCAR does and a lot of the asphalt series we cover here on G-Force, where the tires are in tire jail? You guys don't get them till, say, 5 o'clock when the pits open. You don't really have time then to dope them, do anything like that. You got time to sipe them and grind them. would a system like that work? I know the logistics of putting that together is a pain in the ass for the teams, the series, the tire truck, all of that. But is that something we need to do to eliminate the need, or would that eliminate the need for tire testing altogether?
I certainly think it needs to be thought about. Logistically, like just how you think about it or how you talk about it there, I don't think it would ever work with modified stuff because it takes us, 45 minutes to an hour to sipe and grind a tire. So if we get our tires at 5 o'clock when you get to the racetrack and you got to sipe and grind three or four tires, it's not going to work. But do I think that there's an option for, like, if somebody thinks that somebody else is cheating, could you give them 4 tires and see how they race that week? And obviously, if they race way worse than they did the previous week, then you have kind of a baseline to go off of. Maybe that's something to think about. But I don't think that that's feasible to buy four racing tires at the racetrack and go racing with that. It just there's too much work on the dirt side.
Adam, it's all yours.
Alvar's asked the question, and I'm curious as well, Matt. What's wrong with a simple durometer test?
So Brett Deo actually started doing durometer tests going over the scales at some of the bigger races. And if something durometer differently than others, he would send that car into an impound and they'd take a tire sample, which I think that was a good idea. But from what I've been told, the durometers don't really tell whether the tire is chemically altered. I don't think the chemicals in the makeup of these tire softeners, I don't think they're essentially like a softener. They're trying to add different things in the tire to make it restart better or make it fire longer or do stuff like that from what I've been told. So I don't think necessarily the durometer could tell you whether the tire's been altered or not. Maybe some chemicals it could, but I don't think that it would tell you that there's chemicals in the tire to begin with.
That's all I got for you, Matt. I don't know if Adam's got anything more. I really appreciate you coming back and scratching out this wound that's finally starting to heal on you, and we appreciate you letting us pick at the scab again, Matt. It's great. I think it's great to hear your perspective as someone who was kind of, wrapped up in this situation, and I think we can all learn from what you went through. So we appreciate you being the GOAT. Adam, anything else?
No, man. Good luck this weekend. We may actually, Connor and I talked about driving down there. Clint, you want to go to Port Royal?
I don't know. Some of my other drinking buddies are going. You never know. T-Mac and the
It's a
boys
good
are going,
time.
So
thanks for joining us, Matt. Good luck this weekend, and we appreciate your insight. You're always great for us. You're open. You're honest. It's not PR fluff. It's good shit. No,
thanks, guys. Thanks for having me on as always. And I'm glad to talk about it. Hopefully, we can prevent it from happening in the future. This might just be the straw that breaks the camel's back. Let's hope, and this doesn't happen to anybody else.
Matt, if we come down, can we go in Victory Lane with you and hold up the big check?
Yeah, you just got to bring me beer.
That's easy. See you, Matt. Thanks
See
for
you guys.
stopping by.
Thank you.
Matt Williamson. We watched a kid grow up since he was 14, turn his first laps in the Sportsman Rush weekend. What a great ambassador he's been for racing now. So that's cool. I thought we learned something there, Adam. It was a good discussion.
Yeah, for sure. You were right to get the guest that you got, given the story that we had. So kudos. Well,
back to the durometer reading. So a lot of people don't know this, but Kelly Hallett in the Oshwegan Tech Barn carries a durometer meter in his hand and a durometer gauge. And as the sprint cars come across, they're durometering the right rears and left rears on these sprint cars. And same thing, anything looks out of whack, but they're pretty much everybody's been in the guidelines so far that we had to get into it last year. We know the time's coming, so we're prepared to take those samples when we need to as well. But
it's one of the interesting things about dirt racing. In the big divisions, cheating is not really as rampant in dirt racing as it is in other forms. Like a 410 sprint car is a 410 sprint car. What are you going to do to it? Sure, there's always things you can do, but there isn't an older mentality that everyone is cheating. When you look at Richard Petty, 200 wins in NASCAR, how many times would he have passed a full-blown inspection? Who knows? It's all hearsay. It's all legend. But I do think that dirt racing at those levels is much easier to police than asphalt racing at those levels.
For sure. Jonah Mutton says that they're also using the durometer at the Brighton scales too. So it's a common thing. South Buxton, Southern Ontario Motor Speedway. It's going to continue to be Southern Ontario Motor Speedway till the end of the year. Apparently they got a bunch of apparel they got to get rid of, and they got a bunch of printed materials. So I think you could probably call it either. You get away with that this year. They know what it's going to be. So Buxton's coming back is what we know. Either way you want to put it. So found out some more stuff. Henry called me this week, the owner who just sold it to the March family. March family called me this week, so I'm going out for lunch with the Marches on Thursday. So they seem excited, ready to work. From what I'm hearing, they are great people to work with. Even Henry says the new manager is a fantastic gentleman and excited for what is going to come in the West here in Ontario. So that's exciting for them. All the divisions will be back. They're looking at going back to ODCC Thunderstocks. So that's good for all of them. Looking to get back on with the duel on the dirt. And just trying to work with everybody they can, which is what's needed. We talked about pulling on the rope from the racer side was the promoter side. We all need to work together too. So great to hear that they're going to come in and we'll help guide them as any way we can. Henry did want me to get a point out this week, though. You know, he said for all the troubles and flack he's taken, he had another entity come in there a couple weeks ago and offer him $600,000 more to buy the track because it had the zoning as a racetrack, and they were going to turn it into a road course pavement track, club track. So Henry's saying, for all the heck I took for being a bad guy, I could have sold it for $600,000 more, but that would have put the 80 racers out and all the dirt history here out to pasture, and they would never be racing dirt here again. He said, so for all the strikes I've taken, I just think you should help me get that message out there. And I could have done a lot better had I wanted to forsake the dirt, but he was true to the history of the track in the region. So thank you, Henry, for that. We wish you. Henry's going to hang around, and I understand, help them prep the track. They're going to handle all the management and people skills of it. So we're excited about that. Adam, at Edmonton, we have our container building that we call the races out of. It's super cool. I think I talked the boss with Mike Morris into building that at Oshweekend. So next week we're going to know where we are, but I think we're going to have maybe 6 new suites at Oshweekend. Open air suites, which I love because I hate being behind the glass. Just a railing there in the dirt. Oh man, I can't wait to do the site visit on Monday. So excited with that. Hopefully by next Tuesday we got some new news for you. And I had a meeting today, Adam, with the Musco Lighting folks who came out to Oshweekend to talk about doing LED refit. Our lights have been up there about 17 years at Oshweekend from the first Outlaw race. And now they're LED, which, unlike Memorial Night where we shut them off and shit our pants for 30 minutes waiting for them to come back on, as we already had the Thunderstocks on the street, these new LED lights are wild. Our Burger Bar video of the week this week is a sample the Musco Lighting gentleman showed me. So before we get into that to close out the show, we could be even brighter at Oshweekend. We're looking at getting some of the lights re-aimed, and Spencer's all excited because LEDs are 50% brighter than what we've got right now, which is, I don't think we're hurting for light at Oshweekend as it is. We could just re-aim some of them better. But check out this F1 track video that Musco Lighting lit up, and we could be able to do some of this fancy stuff. Chicasa can do it too. If you recall, at the end of the race, Alex would make all the lights flash and looked awesome. Here's our Burger Barn video of the week. It's an F1 track lit up by the Musco folks. Check this one out. pretty cool. Obviously, that track could do a lot of different things than we do, but imagine the lights going off. You're ready for your Lone Wolf fireworks. You shut out the lights. It goes off. Imagine here comes your feature winner. All the lights are going crazy. I think we could have fun. And they even said they make a Musco start-finish laser beam shark head that we can mount on the side of the wall for all you losers. That's Spencer. That's where you pull the curtain like the Muppet Show. What are we doing? What are we still doing? No, I think that's cool though. The video, man, just have those kind of effects. The other thing he did tell me is that at Mohawk Raceway on the 4-1, the horse track, their poles that actually hold the lights, they light up green, red, and different colors to indicate betting is open, payouts open. So we could even have the poles lighting up like yellow, green, like our caution. So I don't know. So where we stand with that, Glenn's out skiing this week in BC. And hopefully when he comes back, I have a new quote for him. And we'll see if we can get some new lights.
I call bullshit. I don't think Glenn's skiing. And didn't he just get rebuilt?
Yeah. No, he showed me. Did you see his Instagram today? He's on the slopes. And I said, yeah, that's real smart. You just got bone chips taken on your. He said, I need rehab. And I said, well, I don't think your doctor, when he told you to have rehab, meant jumping out of a helicopter on the top of a mountain in BC and sliding to the bottom. But, hey, and I'm trying to think who said it to me. Oh, it was Larry Jackson said it to me. It was we were buying pizza at the moron. He said, you know, Glenn, if he busts his knee, he'll just buy a new one.
I love Larry Jackson.
Yeah, I had a good chat with Larry. If you're a company out there looking to go NASCAR racing, give LJ a shot. But
yeah. Before we sign off, we do have to say, I was only at Motorama I wasn't at the show as long as Clint was. But thank you so much to the people who stopped by, the people who chatted with us. I'm going to apologize forever to Steve McCaw, who I did not recognize when I shook his hand, and he walked up to me directly and kept on walking. I was mortified when I found that out the next day. We have since talked and made up for that. But to all the people who stopped by, you said they enjoy what we do, or they don't enjoy what we do, but they still watch it anyhow. Thank you so much for sharing with us.
I don't mean to laugh, but Steve was the one guy who I knew who he was when he came up to me, so I had one over on you there. And that table should have been the other way, but
because you've met him in Victory Lane, I pictured someone with like brown hair. Like sort of dirty, but he's not. He's salt and pepper, right? So yeah, I blew it. But in my defense, I had a panic attack walking into that building, and I don't know if it was I don't know what it was. I walked in, the sweat started pouring off me, and it didn't stop.
A lot of personalities in that one big building. But great show. Traffic was massive Saturday morning. Even Friday was busy. Sunday a little bit slow, but we expected that. I mean, most people get out there to get all the good stuff early. So congrats to Greg and his crew on that. Another successful Motorama. It won't be long, man, before we're at it. I know Dale Callan puts up his weekly, countdown. We were at 10 last Friday, so we'll be 9 this week. So, and that's the opening night. So that means we're 7 to practice Ash weekend. Man, before we know it, it'll be here.
It's coming right up. It's been a grind. It's been a long off season, in my opinion. But I'm ready to hit it, man.
Shh. Yes, Mr. Kura. The TV did get lost on the way out. That's about it. We want to thank our great guest tonight. We had some fun. Well, might as well tell it now because we don't need too much stuff behind the curtain. You know, the TV we had up, it got knocked off the back of the war wagon, and when I picked it up, it had big lines through it, and it was just. Let's just say it wasn't making it. It wasn't making it through any more car shows.
They build them every day.
The sprint cars went back in the box the way they came out. The TV did not. So We're all good. Thanks everybody for joining our amazing guests once again. We really appreciate everybody stopping by. Trayon LaRue, Dan Bailey, Dan Price, and of course Matt Williamson. We appreciate everybody spending a Tuesday night with us. We're 10 minutes overtime as well. That means Spencer's getting triple time and a half. We got to roll on out of here. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you soon. We'll see you at the racetrack.
Night all.